What is up, Scream Team? Zach Cherry here. About a month ago, I did a predictions video for the new I Know What You Did Last Summer, where I told you who I thought was going to die, survive, and be the fisherman killer. And now that the movie is out, I am going to react to those predictions to see how close or how far off I was. Anyway, let's get into it. Julie James. I feel like this movie is going to mirror Scream 5 in a lot of ways. It feels very much like a remake, but we're having legacy characters come back and guide the new generation through things. So if things are gonna play out the same, which I kind of have a feeling they are, I think that Julie's trajectory here is gonna be a lot like Sydney's in Scream 5, so I think that she will survive. In terms of Julie kind of mirroring Sydney in Scream 5, I think that that was the idea going in, and obviously they tried to implement Jennifer Love Hewitt as much as possible, so I don't think that it was quite on par with Sydney. I feel that she had a lot more agency and mattered to the plot in the end, whereas I feel like Julie here, I mean, she had the connection to Ray, but otherwise she didn't really do much, unfortunately, but she did survive, so I'm gonna count that as a point. Can't say the same thing for Freddie Prinze Jr. as Ray Bronson. And just because I feel like we're doing the Scream 5 thing is that this is going to be a very Dewey-esque situation where he's gonna come in and he's gonna be like very helpful to a lot of these kids and probably get killed off, you know, like halfway towards the end of the movie. I don't think that him and Julie are like still a couple. It feels like they've kind of grown up. This is like 25 to 30 years later, so things change. People's lives go in different directions, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, we're gonna be seeing the last of Ray this time. Ray turning out to be the killer. This was actually an element of the movie that, you know, totally took me by surprise. A lot of people have criticized this twist. I actually don't mind it. I think that it was quite a novel approach to take. I think that the setup and the execution was a complete misfire, but that's another conversation another time. Could not have predicted this in a million years. I think that my assessment that he was going to be the Dewey of this movie was far off, but even though Ray did officially die, which I got right, I don't think that I would give myself the point for that because he is ostensibly one of the fisherman killers. So I have to give some credit to originality here because I never thought that any of these legacy sequels would have the balls to do the thing that, you know, everyone always asks, like, why isn't one of the OGs going to be the killer? Now, getting into the new cast, Ava is sort of like the Jennifer Love Hewitt or the Julie James of this generation. She's just like that character, the one who's sort of the moral compass or probably has like the most trepidations about what they're doing to cover up this accident. For that reason, like she is like ostensibly the main character this time around, and I assume like she's going to survive based on that idea as well. Okay, so you know, I don't think this is much of a surprise with Ava. Obviously, she was the Julie proxy, so she did survive the movie. I don't even think there was a moment where it seemed like she wouldn't have been, and it didn't seem like it was Stevie's desire to kill her off anyway. That was more of like a last minute Ray thing. So yeah, I'm gonna take the point for Ava. That then leaves Danica Richards as sort of the Helen Shivers proxy. I think that Danica will probably survive, and it's going to be a situation where, you know, like the friends, that all the mistakes that, you know, a lot of people felt were made with the original, with Helen being killed off, are going to be amended here with this character. Interestingly enough, Danica was supposed to die, and, you know, the scene that we saw on the boat with her getting gutted and thrown over, which is, you know, certain death times 2, she defeated all the odds and washed up ashore, which was a reshoot. So I didn't think it would be something that they would realize, you know, very last minute like that. But, you know, they did sort of, I guess, see the potential with this character and wanted her to survive should there be a sequel. So I'm going to take the point for Danica. Now that brings us to Milo Griffin, who I guess is the Ray proxy. I think that there's a possibility that because of that he could die if, you know, we're gonna have like 2 female survivors rather than a final couple per se. So, I mean, I could see a scenario where he survives. I'm gonna put him in die. Yeah, this was a good call on my part. I think that in terms of saying that he was the Ray proxy, he was in a sense that, you know, he was the Ava boyfriend figure type, similar to Ray and Julie in the original, but he's not really like a Ray at all. Whereas like Ray was more from like the working class side of Southport that we saw in the original. Milo is very much part of the affluent side of this town, you know, hanging out with his rich friends and stuff. So, I mean, the comparison really just stops at like the fact that he's the boyfriend or love interest. And he did die. He was the first to die out of this group, which, you know, I wouldn't have seen that coming, but I predicted that he was gonna die. So another point for Zach. So that then leaves Teddy Spencer, who is the Barry Ryan Philippe character. So just, you know, based on that, I think, you know, he's gonna die too. It's probably gonna play out a lot similar to, you know, how we've seen in the past. I actually thought that Teddy was the best character in the movie. He was my favorite, at least. He just felt like the most dimensionalized and well-rounded real person. I really wish that he had survived. I wish he was like the final boy situation, or even if it was like a final couple of him and Danica. So yeah, I'm doing pretty good here so far. And that brings us to our 5th friend, who is Stevie Ward. Now, she's very suspicious to me. I think that she's gonna be the killer. The reason is because it's just like, who is she? She doesn't belong here. We're kind of following a template, or we would be following a template, and now suddenly there's this 5th friend. We know that she's also an employee of Ray, so presumably she has a close relationship with him. She works at the bar. We've seen the promotional material. She has like the Ray's pub or whatever shirt on. I think that that leaves a lot of room for a major betrayal. I don't know what her motive could be. I don't think that there really is going to be a clear-cut connection with the past in terms of like these present characters. It's more of just like a situational similarity. It is possible that she's just like a psychotic killer and she's using this scenario as an excuse to fulfill some other agenda that she has, but I'm confident that she's gonna be our killer. Now, does that mean that she's working alone, or is there someone else? I don't know. I mean, there could be room for that here, especially if they are trying to follow more of a Scream formula. Okay, so in terms of Stevie, yeah, I was on the money there, and like, you know, the 5th friend, what were they doing? They weren't there in the original, so it did seem very peculiar that there was 5. However, in Stevie's case, I guess she was kind of like the Ray proxy because she was the poor one from the wrong side of the tracks, if you will. I even hypothesized that there could be another killer that she's working with, which is correct. I don't think that by the end of the video I had named another person, but I am going to give myself the point for getting this right. Our next character is Grant Spencer, who's the father of Teddy Spencer. It seems like he's some sort of town official, or at least the mayor of Southport, perhaps. I can't see a scenario where a father would be the killer and the son or daughter wouldn't be. So like, if he was to be a killer, I would automatically say that, you know, both him and Teddy were killers. But in this scenario, I think that, you know, he's gonna die. So, you know, this is pretty straightforward. Grant wasn't very much of a presence in the movie anyway, so I think it was to be expected to, you know, hire someone who is a more well-known actor like Billy Campbell to play a smaller role. So, you know, our next character is Tyler, played by Gabriette, and I'm thinking that she's going to die. I don't really want to like delve too much into trailers because it could be misleading, but you know, from everything that we've seen with her, it does seem like more victim territory. And you know, there's a lot of extra kids in this movie, so I feel like they've got to be there so we can have a few extra deaths. After I made this video, there was more promotional material that was released where it just flat out showed her getting killed, like the very moment of getting the hook in the neck. So I'm gonna take this point. It's nothing to brag about because anyone could have predicted this, but she's the only female victim in this movie. The next character is Pastor Judah, played by Austin Nichols. So this is like the priest of Southport. I feel like he is going to be a major red herring who will ultimately die. I mean, there's part of me thinks that maybe he's one of the killers with old Stevie here, if there are more than one killer. Interestingly, Austin Nickel is pretty close in age to Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., so perhaps there is some unfinished business from the past. There's also the allusion to the nightmares that Julie was having in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer with the priest in the confessional booth. I'm thinking he's gonna die though. He's giving me major red herring vibes, and most red herrings end up dying. Okay, this is a very interesting situation because I specifically said major red herring, and I mean he is a red herring, but not really much of a presence. He doesn't show up until halfway through, and you know, very similar to my issues with the more current Scream movies in terms of like red herrings, they don't really know how to handle them anymore. It's just like this is a complete afterthought. So he was, at least for all intents and purposes, a red herring and he died, but my mind was going somewhere else where it's just like, how do we contextualize this? Where, you know, he could have been more so related to or just like associated with the older characters from the past, since he was a similar age. Next up is Lola Tung playing Maya. I have a feeling that she's perhaps Ava's sister. If that's the case, you know, I could see a scenario where she survives. Next is Billy, played by Nicolas Chavez. I feel like he could also be a red herring. I don't think that he would be the killer. I can see him being more dead than perhaps Father Judah or Pastor Judah. Maybe he's more of like the Max character from the original, just sort of like the outlier of the group. Either way, I think he's going to die. All right, I'm just gonna lump these two together because this was a situation where they had a scene that was cut out of the movie altogether. And if anyone doesn't know about this, there was the telling of an urban legend story at the beginning of the movie. And I don't really know the context as to, you know, who was telling the story or what, but these two actors played the characters in that version. So I believe that at least one of them died, the Nicolas Chavez character. I don't know what happened with the Lola Tung character, but, you know, besides that, they were not even in the movie. And I mean, like, I'm contemplating just like nixing this altogether. It's neither a point for or against, but just in the spirit of being fair, I'll count this as two incorrect predictions. At this point, with most of the rest of this cast, I have no idea. Just for some clarity, there were a lot more names on IMDb that I did not add to this because they were characters that were just like listed as like tourist or bridal party friend. So I felt that they were just moot, but these are all the characters that I added who had names or were unnamed that seemed like they might be someone. And this is Jill. I think that that's just going to be an NPC. So Jill turned out to be Jill Spencer, who was Teddy's mom / Grant's wife. And, you know, she basically was an NPC. I think she had one scene altogether and then turned up as a silhouette in the window and maybe some ADR as well. So I'm going to count that as a point. We also have Hannah Decker. I think that it's peculiar that she has a full name that's listed, which makes me think that perhaps she's sort of like the Anne Heche character from the original, where they go and look her up and find out some backstory or exposition. Either way, I think that maybe she will be more important, but let's just put her in like wishful thinking. I want more deaths. I want more kills in this movie. This is a wrong point. I don't even really remember who this character was. I think that she was the woman who was cleaning the windows in the chapel. I distinctly remember Pastor Judah calling her by her name. I think it might have been Hannah, but either way, you know, completely irrelevant character. After that, we have Todd Geibenhain as unknown. There's just no name listed. Perhaps he is the person that they run over at the beginning of the film. We haven't really, you know, narrowed down who that person could be. Obviously, in the original, that was the killer who was not actually dead and came back to go after them. And in this case, you know, per my theory, if Stevie is, they're clearly not running over her because she's with the friend group. So, I mean, I think that, you know, he could be that person and that means that he's dead. So I do remember seeing this guy in the movie. He was the car impound dude. Clearly, he was not driving the car that crashed. He did not die in the movie, so this is a complete wrong point. After that, we have Wyatt. So if you've seen the trailers, this character is clearly shown being attacked brutally. So it seems very apparent that he is going to die. That would be my guess anyway, even if we didn't see that. I mean, technically this should just be a default point for everybody. It's just like sort of like a give me, it's a participation badge for even trying to predict what is going on in this movie, because they showed us exactly what was going on in the movie. I think they even showed us in a later promotional ad the aftermath of like Danica discovering the body and him being displayed there. So yeah, this was a gimme for everyone, so I'll take the point. After that, we have Nicole Chapman as Karina. Again, no idea. I think that she'll be an NPC. So I don't even remember a Karina in the movie. She doesn't look familiar. And keep in mind, like, I was looking at the IMDb a month before this movie came out, so it is drastically different right now. So it's possible that maybe this was just an incorrect listing, or the scene was cut that had her in it. Anyway, I'm just gonna remove this altogether, so this is neither a point for nor against. Then we have Elijah Calderon as Jacob. He could be like a relative. Maybe he's Milo's younger brother or something, like he looks at, but you know, either way, I think NPC. Same situation with this guy. I don't remember seeing him in the movie anywhere. He is not even listed on IMDb, and definitely was not Milo's brother. I mean, unless there's like deleted scenes that come out and tell me otherwise, I'm just gonna consider this one null and void as well. So now this is where things are going to be a little bit interesting, because we have some rumor cast slash, like, you know, nothing concrete, but the first one is Muse Watson as Ben Willis. I don't think that he's actually going to be alive and bumping anyone off. I already said that I don't think he's gonna have any affiliation with like this new generation of killers or whatever, but you know, it could be possible that we see like a nightmare situation, because we have seen Julie James have nightmares about him many times over, and in those scenarios he makes a cameo appearance. So it's very likely that still 30 years later, Julie is still having nightmares about him. So I can see a scenario where he will be in the movie. I mean, I think it would have been really interesting if Julie was still having nightmares about him, and it would have been a great way to get Muse Watson back in the movie. But alas, he was not in the movies. So I will count this as a wrong prediction. Then we have Brandy playing Carla Wilson. The director did tease that she could be in it, or there was going to be some sort of either mention or maybe appearance of her. Nothing has been official of her being cast in it. So I think that in some form or another, Carla is going to like spiritually be in this movie. Hopefully we do have an appearance by Brandy, but I'm going to include her in this anyway under other. And yeah, I mean, we got the Brandy post-credit scene, which interestingly enough, the theater that I went to see this, by the time the credits rolled, everybody got up and walked out. And I had a pretty good idea at that point that Brandy was going to be in the movie and was going to be post-credits, so I just knew to expect it, and it was just funny seeing everybody leave and being like, you're gonna miss the Brandy cameo. But anyway, I'm gonna count this as a point for. I mean, it was teased. It was known to us that she was going to be in the movie. And then lastly, that brings us to Sarah Michelle Gellar playing Helen Shivers. Now, we know that Helen is dead from the first movie. However, we do know that Sarah Michelle Gellar was in Australia on the set while they were shooting. And even though she is the wife of Freddie Prinze Jr. and she would have been there, there's possibly, you know, I could see her maybe having some sort of cameo in the movie. I don't think that that means she's alive, but her being on set is kind of suspicious to me. So just in case, I want to throw her in there because she might very well have a role in this movie. Okay, so the Sarah Michelle Gellar cameo. Firstly, I'm gonna consider this a point for predicting it right, but what's interesting about this is that she's not really playing Helen. Like, this is like a demonic manifestation of Danica's guilt, I would say, but it's interesting that it was Danica's nightmare and not Julie's nightmare to have that, because, you know, I just, with where those characters left off in the first movie, I think it might have been more appropriate to have Julie dreaming about this character. So altogether here, there was 21 characters. I got 13 right, I got 6 wrong, and then there was 2 that were just excluded altogether, but I think I did pretty good. What do you guys think? Let me know how you did as well, and let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments down below. I also did a Scream 7 prediction, which I will be reacting to after that movie is released, so you can go check it out now. I'll also have a playlist for all of the I Know What You Did Last Summer content that I do, just if you want to keep up with that. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I've been Zach Cherry, and I'll be right back.